Hey, this is Andrew Brown. In this video, I want to go ahead and build a container image for Docker. So what we're going to do here is go type in Docker container image pipeline, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to just copy and paste that twice, and we'll go down below. I'm going to go to manual because I don't want to run this on a schedule. We're just learning. We're going to create a new recipe. We're going to choose Docker here and just call this my Docker image. We'll call this version 1.0.0. We'll go down below and it's asking for us to select a base image. So that's interesting. I'm not exactly sure why we need to choose the OS, but let me just read about that for a moment. Okay, that makes sense. And the idea is that here we can choose a managed images from AWS. We could choose our own ECR image, but I would imagine that we have to make sure that whatever we choose there is compatible. So I can't imagine we can just use whatever ECR image we want. So I'm going to go back to selected managed images here. I'm going to go and choose the latest, so 2023 latest. And we have a quick start here. We have use latest OS version, which is fine. We'll go down below. I kind of want to use Ubuntu because it's always easier to use Ubuntu. So you know what? I'm changing my mind. I'm using Ubuntu here today. I just want my life to be easy. And so we'll do quick images here, and I want to choose something that is the latest. So we'll do Jammy, because Jammy is probably the latest right now. So x86 Jammy. Use the latest OS version. Sounds good. It's going to produce our AMI ID. Can I rename this to be like Ubuntu? Nope, doesn't like it. So we'll leave it alone, I suppose, and I guess we'll not muddle with it. We'll go down below, we'll scroll on down, and so we have some things we can install. So we can install the Amazon CloudWatch agent, which is not a bad idea. Maybe we want to install Python because often we are doing Python. We actually do have a Python app, so if there was Python in here, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Do we even have that as an option? If we don't, it's not a big deal. I don't think it's that hard to install Python. We have Go here, which is fine. We'll go next here. So nothing super exciting. We'll go down below. And so we have that one component installed. And now it says select and verify stuff. I don't think I want to do that this time. And so now we're here and we have our example. So the idea is that it's going to populate this information into our template. And then the idea is that we can define stuff afterwards here. So what I want to do is I want to go over to our code base, and we have stuff in here. I'm going to make a new folder here. We'll just call it mkdir EC2 image builder. And I'm going to cd into that. I'm going to make a new directory here called container or Docker. And in there, I'm just going to cd into that, and I'm going to create a new file called Docker file. And what we'll do is we'll copy over some of our stuff, because in ECR we created some stuff. So if we go over to ECR here, we have this Docker file, and we can copy its contents. But the one thing I don't know is how would it grab all the other stuff? So that's something I'm not 100% confident about, but I guess we'll find out here in a moment. But let's go look for this folder here, this EC2 image builder folder. It's getting a little bit unwieldy to try to find things here, but it should be all alphabetized. EC2 images builder. Oh, I put it in basic ASG by accident. So what I'll do, I'll just move this up. I didn't realize I was in a folder, but we'll do cd dot dot, cd dot dot. I'll just say move EC2 image builders, and I'll just go back to directories. And so now it should be here. Good. And I'll just fix that spelling mistake here, or I'll never hear the end of it. Okay. And so in here, we have our Docker file. We don't have our Docker folder, which is kind of frustrating. I'm not sure where that went to. Oh, I guess we just moved that. All right. And I'll make a new folder here again. I'll just call it Docker. No, it's right here. Never mind. I just couldn't see it. And we probably want to name this file correctly too, Docker file. And so I want to go back over again to ECR, wherever that is. Here it is. I'm going to grab this code. It'd be really nice if we could compile this app. I'm not sure if we're going to have some trouble with this, but we'll go ahead and paste this in. And so if we go back over to here, we can grab these lines. Okay, we're just using this as a working environment. You could launch this in github.dev if you really don't want to have any spend here. The idea is that it's going to configure this stuff, and I want to install everything. Ubuntu might come pre-installed with Python. I'm not sure. Ubuntu Jammy, does it come pre-installed with Python? Because it might. It says, is it pre-installed by default? So I don't think we actually have to install. We just have to provide all of our other stuff here. And it might already have curl and get installed. And this was specifically for this video. But my question is, how is it going to pull in these files, right? Because if we go over to here, how would it know? And so I think what would have to happen is we'd have to pull these from S3 or something, right? Because otherwise it's not going to know. So that is something that I'm kind of wondering here. Okay, so let me go figure that out. So there's obviously managed policies in some way for EC2 Image Builder to work with it. So I'm going to assume that the way we're going to get these files is by placing them in S3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create myself a new bucket. I'm also just going to cd into the correct directory here so we know what we're doing. So say EC2, whoops, EC2 Image Builder. And I'm going to go to this Docker one here, whoops. Docker, because I really want to grab the contents of these app files. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to go back into the EC2 Image Builder directory, wherever that is. Here, yep, okay. And I want to paste this. There we go. And the only thing I'm going to do is remove this Docker file because we don't really need it in here. Or what we could do is we could just take the contents of it. No, I'm going to delete it out of here because I just want to download, or sorry, I want to not upload that to AWS S3. So we'll go ahead and make a new file here. I'm going to call this one readme.md. And in here, I want to do AWS S3 sync. And I want to sync the app directory to an S3 bucket, but we'll figure that out here in just a moment because the first thing I want to do is create a bucket. So create a bucket to host our app files. And so we'll go ahead and do this. We can make it a zip and then unzip it. I don't want to do that. I just want to download the files individually quickly. So we'll say AWS S3, MB to create a bucket, S3://, and this one's going to be in region CA Central, because that's where I've been operating this entire time. It should create it there, but I'm going to do that anyway. Explicitly, we'll just say EC2 Image Builder app, and they'll just put some numbers here to create that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you are creating this, you might have to use different numbers, of course. I forgot the S3 in front of it, so it's not going to work without that. So we'll go ahead and cancel that out. We'll try this again. And we'll hit enter. Okay, and so now we have that bucket. I always forget the sync command, so we'll go look it up. AWS S3 sync. And we'll go over here to this. And I'll go to version 2. We'll go down to examples. And it's just sync period, then to the bucket. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. So I do want to sync the contents of the app directory. I'm not sure if I can do this. And I want to say S3://EC2 Image Builder. I wonder if I could do this like app. I wonder if that would work. So we'll go ahead and try this out. Doesn't like something here. Maybe this would work better. Oh, you know, we have to have S3 in the front of here, otherwise it's not going to work. We'll try this again. And it looks like it uploaded it to the app directory, so that's good. Okay, so that is good. And then we need to modify this Docker file because we need to pull from this location. So I'm going to want to run those commands. I'm going to go say just run. And this is not going to be efficient whatsoever. I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here and say AWS S3 copy. I mean, we could just sync it as well. That'd probably be more efficient. We'll just do sync in the other direction, and we'll just say app here. And actually, I'll just do period there so it downloads that. And so the idea is that I want to sync the contents of that folder. I'm not sure if that would work correctly. I'm going to do a quick test here. I'm just going to say mkdir test and cd into the test directory here. And then I just want to see what happens if I was to do this. Okay, and so if we go into this test directory, ls, it doesn't seem like that worked. And also, I'm not sure why it's not showing me that test folder here. There it is. Yeah, so that didn't work. What if we try this? And do an ls here. There we go. So this is the command I actually want. So that is good. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this folder. It's going to save us some time just by doing these tests. And so we cd in that folder, we create it, and the requirements.txt is there. We don't need to copy that, so we'll just take that out. And so this should, in theory, create our container. So I'm going to copy this contents. I'm going to set copy here. I'm going to go all the way back over to here and paste it into our example file. There we go. Has one error. What's its problem? End of document or a copy separated, a document separator is expected. So it's expecting something. Not exactly sure why. We'll try this again. It might be because just like wrap this like this, run. Is it run or CMD? I think in this case it'd be run, right? Just give me a second, okay? Actually, I think run is fine because run only happens during the build. And so we want to copy those files during the build, not when it starts up the application. So that is totally fine. I'm not sure why it has a problem here. Maybe it's that / it doesn't like. So I'm going to go ahead and... You got to be kidding me. What's going on here? It's really messing up here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure why it's saying that. Give me a moment to figure it out. All right, you know what? I'm going to just ignore this and see what happens because this is parsing YAML, right? And I know what YAML looks like. This looks fine to me, and maybe this is messing it up. So I'm going to ignore that for the time being. I'm going to close this tab. It's kind of in my way. I'm going to just see if I can proceed, even though I have an error here. Target repo. So this is the target where the output container is stored. So we'll actually have to create a new ECR container. I'm just going to quickly do that by going over to ECR and doing that manually. So we'll go ahead and just say EC2 app or EC2 builder app. Okay, and this one can be private, and we'll leave it as mutable for this one. There we go. And so I'll go back over to here. We'll give this a refresh. I'm so happy they gave us a refresh button here. We'll go down. We'll see if we can proceed next. Yeah, I didn't care. So I just don't trust it. I think that it probably will work. A document that is defined for the components. We'll go ahead and hit next. And just checking here. This seems fine. We'll go ahead and hit next. And this is fine. We'll go hit next. And we'll create this pipeline. What I don't understand is how is it going to pull from S3? Because somewhere here, it has to be configured for that, right? So I'm going to go in here and just take a look. And I guess I'll just do a bit of reading. Just give me a moment, okay? All right, so it seems to be suggesting there's an instance profile. So maybe there is a actual piece of compute that is happening here. And so I'm just going to look a little bit around. We'll look at the infrastructure. We'll see. We have image workflow. We'll ignore that. Instance type, IAM role. So it says EC2 instance profile for image builder. And so this is what I'm really interested in. Let's go take a look and see what that looks like. Okay, because I just don't know what's in this one here. So we'll go here and we have SSM access. Okay. We have this one, which allows us to get components. All right. And then we have being able to pull images from containers and stuff like that. So that's good. But there's nothing here that says it can have access to S3. So this is where we're going to have to modify this. We could create a new one, but I'm really lazy here. I'm just going to give it S3 access because I feel like that's okay. I'm going to go inline policy here. I'm just going to choose S3. Okay, and I want it to be able to read from S3. I'm going to say get objects. And that should be sufficient. Just going to search for get in here. Oh, they're all gets. Yeah, so I'm going to do that, and I don't care if it's all. Is this a good idea? Yeah, I'm doing it. Get objects from S3. You know, you have to decide on your own risk, but I just want that to work, and so I think that will give us the access that we need. Could we also add a bucket policy? I don't know. I guess we would give that role. So if we wanted to, we could take that role and then add it that way. There's two different ways that we can do it. But I'm going to just do it this way because I think this is the easier way to do it. So let's go back over to our pipeline. And I think that we have all the access that we need in order to do this. Let's go ahead and run this pipeline and hopefully that it will work. Okay, so somewhere in here we can watch it running. Maybe it's under images. Here it is. And we'll go over to Docker and we'll click into this. And we'll go over to our workflow. And so we'll have to watch and see how this goes. So this is really nice. I mean, obviously we could use code build to build containers and build virtual machines, but I mean, this service is getting really, really nice. So I like it so far. But anyway, we'll just wait here and see what happens, okay? Aha! Okay, so while this image is building, I went over to EC2 and it's launching an M5 large. I knew it. I knew it was doing something. So in the other video, I was saying, kept saying it was free, but I'm like, okay, yeah, but what's the real cost? What's the real cost? And here it is. So it's actually launching up an EC2 image. And so it's not free, but the question is, can you change it away from an M5 large? And that's something I don't know. And so it might be the case that when we actually launch up this infrastructure here, because we don't choose the instance type, maybe it's defaulting to that M5. So yeah, that's what I was wondering. So yeah, now we know. But anyway, we're going to watch this build and see what happens, and hopefully it works the first time. I would love it to work the first time, but you know, that's not always the case. But anyway, we'll just sit tight here, okay? All right, so our container build has failed. No surprise there, as I expect it to fail on the S3 part. But let's go in here and take a look and see what's happening. So here we're getting end of file. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at. Okay. That's the input, output. But what happened? So expectation not met. Error here. Let me carefully look here and see where the problem is, okay? Also, I just want to point out, it looks like it's running SSM commands underneath. So we talked about run commands, how we would traditionally do this. So that's kind of interesting. But still, trying to figure out what that error is here, okay? Here they're talking about something about changing the working directory. So maybe I've affected it somehow with the working directory, but we'll have to take a look and read a bit more about the docs here. So what I would say is this is very cryptic and it's not very useful. So I think the only way I'm going to figure this out is by editing our image, or our image recipe, or whatever you want to call it, our pipeline. And maybe from there, we can fix our issue. So I'm just looking for where we might have configured the actual file. I'm going to go to edit pipeline. Maybe it's just here. No. But I need to find out where we defined the Docker file, which I have no idea where. Give me a moment, okay? I went over here to container recipes. Maybe it's in our container recipe. Create a new version. And yeah, so this is where it changes. So what I'm going to do is take out the CloudWatch agent Linux. Okay. And we don't have any other components there. I'm going to go down here. What I'm going to do is take out all of this. All of this. Okay, and I need some kind of like CMD hello world for Docker image. I have a feeling we just use the echo command. cmd docker echo hello world. I just want to see someone else has done it before I do it. I'm just going to do it anyway. And so the question will be, will this work? Right? So we'll go ahead and paste that in here. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I'll just write it by hand. Echo hello world. I wonder if that will work. Okay. So hopefully that will work, but I'm just thinking by simplifying this significantly, then maybe we'll run into less issues. We'll create this recipe. We'll call this one 1.0.1. Can I create this without a description? Probably won't let me. It says at least one build component must be specified. Maybe it's because we have this in here. I'm going to take out the components. Create the recipe. Nope, it wants us to specify components, so we don't have any way around this. Does it say what kind of components? At least one build component. All right, I guess I'm putting the agent back in. I'm surprised we actually have to put one in at all. I don't know why we have to. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create that. And so hopefully that will rule out a lot of our issues here. I do want to update our pipeline. So go back to our image pipeline here. And I'm not sure if this is actually configured to use the latest. So we'll go into here. And somewhere it should tell us the version container recipe. So it's using version 1.0. I'm going to go and edit our pipeline. I'm going to see where we can update this to our latest. So here it is, 1.0.1. We'll go all the way down to the ground. And something I'm really curious about is what would happen if we change our infrastructure here. So I think this one was defaulting to an M5. So M5 large. I guess we go back to instances and take a look here. M5 large. And so you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to do this because I just want to test if it's using something else. And so I'm just going to switch this to an X large, okay? Or even a medium. Do we have a medium here? No, we don't. Can we choose T3 medium? Okay, because I just want to see what happens if we do that. And my new info here, we'll just choose whatever the default one is. EC2 instance profile for image builder. There we go. And that's the only thing I'm changing. So we'll go back over to our pipeline. And I want to go here, and I just want to confirm, has that changed? I mean, it doesn't look like it's using the new one. Can we edit this? Can I edit my pipeline? We'll go down below here. I'm going to choose this one instead. So now it's using T3. What happens if I go to this one? This one is the same, except this one has a T3 medium. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and save that. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and run this pipeline again. Okay, so what I'm hoping is that on this run, we'll get something else that happens. And while we're waiting here, we might as well go over to our instances and take a look. And so now it's launching T3 medium. So we do have control over what we can launch there. Originally, EC2 image builder, you could not change it away from an M5. So it's really nice that we can do that, as that can help us be cost effective. And now we are, this I would say would be a better solution than having to use Systems Manager to configure this all by default or all by hand. But anyway, we're going to hold tight here and see what happens, because this is going to take a little bit of time, okay? All right, so our image build was successful. So that is good. And if we want to go see our images, I guess we'd go over to ECR and take a look over there. So just in another tab, I'm just going to open up ECR. I would really like to build our actual image, because that's what we really want to do. But if we go over to here, we can see we have our image and it is built. But the question is, what is wrong with our template? So this was clearly not, well, hold on, this is not our whole template. All we did was hello world, and we changed a few things. So I think in order to test this, we would have to add more stuff. So yeah, that's the question. Do we want to go through this process and do this? I don't know. Let me think about it, okay? All right, I guess I'm just going to continue on and see if I can fix this. And so where it could be failing is possibly on this line here, or it could be the working directory. So I think what we should do is go ahead and edit this. Now, you can just watch and then wait until I fix it and then do the final implementation, because you don't want to wait every time and based on how long these builds are. I'm going to go over to our container recipe. I'm going to go and make a new version of this one. And what we'll do is go here. I thought I would pre-populate it. Let's go back for a second. And create new version. Yep. There we go. This will be 1.0.2. 1.0.2. See if work app messes up template. I mean, it did show us, in particular, there was a problem. We placed this one line in here. Really didn't like it for some reason. So we'll go all the way down to the ground here. And if we place that in here, I'm not getting that error now. Okay. What if I grab the next line? Then what? I still don't have that problem. What if I grab the next line? No problem. What if I grab the next line? Again, I'm waiting for this to complain. No problem so far. What about the copy? And now I'm thinking that maybe what the problem was is this line here, because it has curly braces, right? So we'll go here. No problem still. I'm going to hard code this to 4567 just so that we can rule that out. I'm going to try to set this as well. Still, no problems. And I'll grab this last line here. Okay, so we're not seeing any problems this time around, but maybe that's an indicator that this will work correctly. So I'm just going to try this. Okay, and then we'll see if we actually get an error. So we'll do that, we'll create, and then we'll go over to our image pipelines, and we'll go back to our Docker container pipeline, and we'll go to our container recipe. I'm gonna go ahead and just edit this pipeline here. We will, I don't know why it doesn't show the pipeline name when it does that. Just kind of throws me off, making me think that it's not going to work correctly. Gonna edit that again. Yeah, it just seems like it's a bit glitchy. We just gotta be careful there. And so I'm gonna drop this down, choose 1.0.2. And I'm gonna find out if this actually works. So we'll go ahead and run the pipeline and we'll see if it builds, okay? So we'll just hang tight here and we'll go to images here. And so it should be building a new one. Is it running? There we go. Okay, and then we will just have to observe what happens, okay? All right, looks like our latest one failed. It might be the same reason why, but at least we weren't getting that YAML error there. So we'll go over to workflow. We'll scroll on down. We'll take a look. It's failing on the last step. And again, you know, I find this part to be a very cryptic, but we'll do our best to make sense of it. Oh, do we get application logs? Well, that would actually make it a lot easier to make sense of, as we were looking at the step output. I don't think we actually ever went to application logs. So maybe that's why it was so hard to make sense of this. It is failing on the same steps. So let's go take a look at the application logs, which I just never noticed here before. And we'll see if this tells us anything different. Command failed. Waiting for command to complete. Attempt number 3. Finish execution of all documents. So we have step find CloudWatch agent, execute bash, finished execution. So it's not exactly clear what is happening, but obviously something is not working. And to me, it seems like it's probably this command here. It's probably the AWS S3 sync that is failing. So I would assume that this would have pre-installed onto it the AWS CLI. However, I do believe we chose as our base image the Amazon Linux, the Ubuntu image. And so Ubuntu actually might not come pre-installed with it. And so that might be our actual problem. So what I'm going to do is go over to container recipes, and I'm going to try this again. And this is just a total guess that I'm thinking that's our issue. And we'll go here, and our base image actually says Amazon Linux. No, down here it says Ubuntu 2023. So we're using Ubuntu 2023. I guess this doesn't really matter because this is obviously lying. And again, it's just a glitchy UI. I'm not sure why it's so inconsistent. But we'll go ahead and try this again. And we'll ignore the fact that that's selected because clearly it's selecting Ubuntu down here. And maybe what we need to do is install the CLI. And so maybe in here there is one for CLI. There we go. And so this might resolve our issue. So I'll go all the way to the top, and we'll call this one 1.0.3. We'll say include the AWS CLI. I actually don't really care about the CloudWatch agent, but it is something that is nice to have installed. We'll go all the way down to the ground. We're going to go ahead and hit create the recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and try to deploy this again. So go over to image pipelines. We will go click into here. We will edit our pipeline. And notice that it's not populating, so I do not trust it. We'll go back. Okay, you got to pay attention because sometimes AWS stuff just doesn't work properly for whatever reason. And we'll go down here to version 3. We'll go ahead and save those changes. And that should be saved. We'll confirm that it's 0.3. We'll go ahead and run the pipeline. So it should be running the pipeline. We'll go to images. It takes a moment for this to show up. So we'll just wait a moment for this to show up. There it is. It's now showing up. So that's excellent. And we'll click into here. We'll go into here again. We'll go to workflow and we'll see if it passes or fails. Okay. All right. So we have another failure. That's okay. But at least we identified the fact that we didn't have the AWS CLI because that definitely would be something that would mess things up. So we'll go over to here. We will take a look at our application logs. We'll see if we have any better indicator as to what is going on. So I'm going to scroll down here. What I want to see is whether it installed the AWS CLI. So it says the AWS CLI is running the desired version. So it is definitely there. If we go up here, we see Python. So that's actually it doing the install, right? So it's going ahead and it's installing those components. Then it's going down here and it says it is successfully completed, waiting for the command to complete, attempted 3 times. So it seems again like it is failing on this step. So what we could do, I suppose, is we could go ahead and I'm going to go back to our recipe, container recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new version. And I'm going to go down below here. I'm going to copy our template back over. And I'm just going to paste in this version. So I have this version in here. And so I really think it's on this one. So I wouldn't mind doing some echoes or logging here. So just give me a moment. And so I just couldn't remember what it is, but I think what we can do is run an echo command. So what I want to do here, just to make things more clear, and I don't know if it'll actually do this, but we'll just say AWS S3 sync. And then we'll say copy rex. And it will say run pip install. All right, and so that should give us a little bit what's going on here, right? Because I don't think any of these things ran, but I think it's failing literally on this one here. If it's the working directory, I'm just going to go up here and just say working directory. And I'm just in case this messes it up, I'm going to do this. As I just don't trust it for whatever reason. So I really want to know what's going on here. And another thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to be very explicit, and I'm going to go to the bucket policy, And I'm going to add in the instance profile so this profile can actually pull. So I think this is okay. We're going to go ahead and copy all of this. We're going to go back over to here. We're going to paste this in. Doesn't show any errors, so that is good. I'm going to go all the way to the top here. And we'll say 1.0.4. Add echoes to see if it logs in the application logs, because that's what we need to see. We go all the way down to the ground. We'll go ahead and create this recipe. Okay, so that recipe is now there. We're going to go back to our image pipeline. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to go ahead and hit edit pipeline. Notice that it's not displaying properly, so I'm going to try this again. There we go. I'm going to drop this down. We're looking for version 0.4. Everything else is fine. That T3 medium is totally fine. It's more cost effective. I like that. And so what I'm going to do is go over to the S3 bucket. Okay, and what we're going to do is change the bucket policy. And what I'm going to try to do is tell it to allow the role from this one so it is able to pull. So we'll go into permissions here, and we'll edit our bucket policy. And what I want to do here is look for some examples. So that's a put example. And this is kind of what I want here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this one. It's kind of what I want. And I'll go back here and I'll paste this in. I don't want this condition here, so I'm going to take this condition out. I want to utilize this bucket. Okay. And I need to add in a specific role. So this is AWS. I'm just going to look for AWS principal role in S3 bucket. Just because I'm not sure if it is for AWS. And I'm just going to type in role. Is principal, I am out, AWS account, user, role. So I think that's what it is. I think that's how we're going to do it is to provide the role there. Okay, so that's what I'm going to try to do. So I'm going to go back over to our container and go to our image pipeline, click into this one. I'm going to go into our infrastructure configuration. And in here we have a role. So it should be somewhere in here. It's this one here. So I'm going to go over to IAM, specifically roles. That's what I want to pull up is roles. And we'll go ahead here and search. And I want to grab this ARN here. That's what I want. And so I'm going to go back over to our bucket. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in this. Okay? And so in theory, this should give us access. We could give it full access to everything, but I think this is simple enough. And we'll go ahead and save those changes. All right? The other thing that I'm thinking about here is, I'm just thinking about this for a moment. I mean, that's fine. I just want to double check. I mean, that looks right. So that name looks correct to me. So let's go ahead and pull the trigger this time. Okay, and so I'm hoping that we'll see some kind of difference, whether it's the logging or something else here. I just got too many tabs. I'm just going to close a few of these out here. So this is a little bit more manageable. And we'll go ahead back to image builder and we'll run that pipeline again. All right, so container image, we'll go ahead and run that container. I'm going to go over to images. We're going to give this a refresh. And I'm waiting for that 1.04 to show up. There it is. We'll click into it. And so yeah, I'm hoping that this time we'll have better success or better logging at least, okay? So I'll see you back in a bit. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a nice refresh here. We'll take another look here. So this one's failed, which is not a big deal. It's not fun, but it's what happens. And so the question really be, did it time out again? Did we have an issue with our echo? We go to our step output. And so we see our run. And so what I'm looking for is to see if we have any information about our echo. I don't see anything in the SD out, so I'm assuming didn't write there. We'll check over here and go all the way down to the bottom. And it looks like Let's see here, carefully checking here. So we have ST out for AWS CLI. Okay. And also, I didn't notice, but we can probably expand these. I just could go ahead and maybe there's a way to, I'm not sure if there's an easy way to expand these, but what I'm looking for is to see if it ran any of our commands and if it outputted the information. What was it called? This one was called AWS S3 or Working Directory S3 Sync. So I want to just search this here. We'll say Working Directory. I'm just going to enlarge this. That was useless. Maybe I'll expand this. I didn't know we could expand this before. I really wish we knew what it was doing. Because here I just cannot tell what is even going on. Yeah, this is incredibly difficult to debug. Well, anyway, I think what's happening is that it's probably failing, I think, on the sync. Because I don't think it's a working directory issue. I really think that it's the AWS S3 sync action. So maybe it doesn't have access to the internet, but that makes no sense because how could it pull stuff? But I guess it could be pulling stuff internally. So let's go take a look at our infrastructure configuration for this one. And we don't specify VPC, we don't specify a subnet, we don't specify a security group. Okay, so none of those are set. And if those aren't set, then how would it communicate out to the internet? Let's go back to 1.404 here. And what I want to check is the infrastructure configuration. So we can see this stuff. Another thing we could do is maybe if we go to EC2, maybe we can still see the configuration. And I just want to go here and find the last one that ran. I guess it doesn't really matter because they're all going to be doing the same thing. And I'm not sure if it show any networking information after the fact. So what I want to do is I know this is going to fail, but I want to run it again. And I want to observe where it's launching because I want to know, is it in a private subnet, public subnet? And does it have a security group out to the internet? You know, things like that, okay? So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and launch this again, even though that seems crazy. And, you know, hopefully you've just been watching along here and not necessarily running this every time and waiting for me to succeed here. But we'll go ahead and run this pipeline again. And so this time, I'm going to go over to our EC2 instances. And I want to wait for this thing to spin up. There it is. Okay. And what I'm looking for here, don't want both of them, just the one. I want to see what networking settings it's getting. So it's launching the default VPC. I know that's my default VPC. And then the other part of it is what security group does it have? We'll go to security. Well, first of all, does it have a public IP address? It does. And it's launching with the default one. Okay, so the default one I don't think communicates out to the internet. All traffic all. And so if we edit that rule, yeah. So this is another thing that I think is happening. I think what's happening is that it wants to talk out to the internet. It can't because in order to talk to S3, it has to go over the internet because we don't have a VPC endpoint. I don't even know if we can configure a VPC endpoint for this particular service. I don't even want to try. So what I'm going to do is create a new security group and I can call this one my EC2 image builder internet. So this will be out to the internet. We only have the default subnet, so I'm not worried about placing it in the wrong place. I'm going to go 0. I'm going to say all TCP traffic from anywhere IPv4. Okay, and just in case it wants it, I'm going to give it IPv6 as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create that. And so now we have this security group. I'm going to go back over to our image pipeline. I know that one's running. I don't care. I know it's going to fail. And I'm going to go to our infrastructure configuration. I'm going to edit this one, if it's possible. Okay, and we're going to go down below here. And I'm going to set the VPC explicitly. I'm going to select the subnet explicitly. I'm going to select this this security group. And so what I'm hoping for is that's going to help us here. Okay. The only thing I'm noticing is that it's not populating. It's like creating infrastructure config. I don't want to make a new one. I want to edit the current one. So again, I think this is just an issue with AWS's UI. There we go. Just be very mindful of that because their stuff messes up all the time. And they're going to change the UI. It's not going to get any better. So we'll go ahead and try this again. There we go. And so I'm going to go down here. I'm going to save this configuration. And so now it's set to that VPC and that security group. I'm going to go ahead and just update my image recipe because I don't want those container recipe because I don't want all those echoes in there. And then I also just want to know what version I'm on so I can keep track of it. So I'm going to create a new version. We'll give this a moment. And it did populate there. So this will be 1.0.5. I'm not going to give this a description. I don't care. Try again. I'm going to go all the way down to the ground. And I'm just going to take out the echoes out of this. So I just want to get rid of this echo, and this echo, and this echo, and this echo. Okay, so those are gone. We'll create the recipe. I'm going to go back over to our image pipeline. I'm going to go to the container one. And I'm going to click into it. I'm going to go to actions and edit this pipeline. Notice it's not filled in because it's just glitchy. So I'll go back and try this again. We'll click into it. We'll say edit pipeline. We'll scroll on down. We'll make sure that we're using 1.0.5. We'll look at the infrastructure details. And I'm trying to see in the infrastructure details here. It says the VPC, subnet, and our security group. Excellent. We'll save those changes. Great. And I'm not sure if that image failed. I don't care. I'm just going to run it again. And we'll go ahead and run this pipeline. We're going to go over to images. I'm going to refresh here. And I'm waiting for, I believe 1.05 was the one that we want to run here. It is, yeah. So go into here. And so I'm hoping that that is our cause, okay? But yeah, we'll hold off here and see what happens. All right, so we're still having the same issue. It's still failing. And I'm just trying to think of this for a moment here because the idea is that we have this container and it's trying to pull from the internet. Does the container have access to the internet? So that's like my next question. So let me just figure this out, okay? All right, so another thing I was thinking about was the fact that maybe we just shouldn't be trying to download directly from S3. And what we should do is actually download the files onto the build system and then copy them over to the container. To me, that makes more sense. So I think fundamentally, what I'm trying to do here is just wrong. The whole sync is wrong here. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to try to get rid of these other ones so I can take a look and see what my code looks like here. Instead of running this, I really want to actually just copy the files over. Also, this file doesn't make any sense because we're not actually copying from anywhere, so probably we don't want that. Anyway, what I'm going to do is go back over to here, and I believe in components, we actually have some commands that we can utilize to copy stuff. So there might be an example here, and I believe that they have like a download S3. So what I'm going to do is go over to here and say download S3, EC2 image builder. And there are, I wanted to make it a separate video, but it seems like we'll have to do components here, but there should be something for downloading and uploading stuff. So if we go to download, I think it's in here, download S3. Or S3 download. Oh, here it is right here. So with S3 download action module, you can download an S3 object or set of objects to a local file or folder that you specify with the destination path. Okay, so here's an example. And so this is something that we could do for our component, right? So essentially, I think we have to create a component to download our source is what I'm getting at here. So what I'm going to do is go back over to EC2 image builder, and we are trying to create one here, a component. And we do want this for Linux. And this is for Ubuntu or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's compatible with everything here. This is going to be like download S3 code, S3 app code, download S3 app code from our AWS S3 repo. So say 1.0.0, okay? And then we need to define what it is that we want to do. So here it has a bunch of steps and build and stuff like that. So I need to figure out how to get this in the right location. Just give me a moment. So I think what we can do is we can just take out these two other steps. I don't know if we actually need them. I guess we'll find out when we do something here. And I'm going to go over to here. And you can see that it is copying multiple files. I really actually want to sync files, but that's fine. We can just manually specify each one here. And I might just take this out of here and just cut this in here and just say, I'll make a new file here. New file, I'll just say component YAML, just so we have an easier time working with this. Okay, and I believe what we need to do is put this here, and then indent, indent, and indent, and then indent one more time. And so this will be our build step. We do have a few things set here, so we'll have to specify the source, which we have down below. So I want this file here. Okay, I want this file here. I want this file here. So we have the three files. The question is, where does it go? Because it needs to go in a directory that it can copy from. And I don't know where the default directory is, so give me a moment to find that out. So what I'm thinking is that maybe what we can do, we'll just take these, well, we'll leave the overwrite on. And it's kind of like glitching out on me here, whoops. I have caps key on, sorry about that. And so there's that override option. I'm gonna just put it on for all three of them. And what I'm gonna do, because this is a Linux system, so we're gonna just do /temp app.py. And so this is what I'm gonna just try to do. I'm gonna just try to put it in here. I don't want the README file. That one is total junk. Actually, I only need two files. I just need this and the requirements. So we'll go ahead and we'll say requirements.txt. Okay, so we have those two set up. And I'm hoping that it'll just create this folder for us. We can also just put in the temp, because the temp is definitely going to exist. So that's part one of it. The next thing is we need to go back to our Docker file here, because this Docker file no longer makes sense. And instead of doing AWS S3 sync, I just want to copy files over. So I'm going to go here and just say temp app requirements.txt. And then the other one is going to be temp app.py to app.py. So we're basically copying over those two files. And so I'm hoping that that's going to get us the result that we want. Okay. And so let's go ahead and copy this over. Paste this back in here. Whoops. And we'll go ahead and create that component. Hopefully it doesn't need those other two steps. We'll refresh here. Where'd my component go? I just made it. Where is it? There we go. There's a bit of a delay. It's very unusual. And so we need to update our Docker file, which is now this. So we'll copy this again. And we'll go back over to here. We will go into our container recipes. We'll go here. I'm just going to give it a hard refresh because I just want it to populate properly. And we'll edit this again. Create a new version, sorry. There we go. And I'm going to go all the way down to the ground. Well, before we do, I'll just update this to 1.0.6. And we'll go all the way down to the ground. And we will paste this in here. Okay. The other thing is that we need to select our other container. So in here, we have selected components. And I want to go ones that are owned by me. And so there it is. I'm going to checkbox that. So now that one's there. I could even change in what order it happens. I'm going to put it after the AWS CLI. Not that we necessarily need it, but just in case we do, I'll put that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and create this recipe. And so now we have version 1.06. The other thing is, well, we have the container in there, so we can go to our image pipeline, and we'll click into it. I'm going to give it a hard refresh just so that it doesn't not populate these values here. Which that didn't even help anyway, so I guess I should have just refreshed anyway. So go ahead and hit edit. And we'll scroll on down, and we'll make sure we're using 106. So that is our new one. And hopefully this time it works. So I'm going to run it again. And I'm going to go down to images here. I'm going to give this a refresh. I'm going to click into here. And we'll see if that makes any difference. Okay? It failed again. Okay. But there could be a different reason why. I mean, we're doing a completely different build this time, so I'm expecting some kind of different information. And this is ending a lot more abruptly. So, doesn't really help me here. Let's go to the application logs. And we'll take a look carefully. So I have the agent installed here. Okay. And the CLI is installing, good. And now it's showing the S3 download, so it definitely is downloading files. So here it says, from here to there, attempting to download the file, and it creates the path. Good, it creates that there. And then it says checking for overwrite property, so it's doing that. It's copying the other one, which is excellent. So we're getting something different, which is great. And then we have this here. But then we have this waiting for a command to complete. Waiting for a command to complete. That is driving me crazy. What command? You have to tell us or we don't know. Okay, let me look into this, okay? Maybe there's something else going on here. And what I'm thinking about is that these actions are defined in the image workflow, right? For the build. Oh, are we building an image or a container? Okay. Hold on. Let's go back to our pipeline. I just want to confirm that this is the type of workflow we're using, image workflows. No, it says default process. Okay, so we're not explicitly choosing the image workflow. The image workflow is the default. So that makes me think that the image workflow we're using is this build container option, because we're not saying anything other than what it is. And so it's going through these steps. These are the 3 steps, and it's failing on this one. But this is all it shows. So we have execute components, and that's all there is on this one. Okay. Bootstrap instance for container, execute components. But it is failing on this one. So let's go back here, and we'll carefully read that again. And we'll go all the way down to the ground. Waiting for a command to complete. Action failed for step build components. All right, I'll investigate. All right, so, working through my issues here, I just kept going through here and making corrections. So in this version, you'll see I start removing each piece. And so once I got to here, okay, it started working. So to me, it seems like it's probably failing on this line here, like these 2 lines. So that's what I have to figure out next. So let me see what the issue is here, okay? All right, so I went through multiple iterations of this, and I'm just not getting anywhere with it. And so one thing I thought that might have been my issue is the fact that when you do those copy commands, you need to copy from where you are. So if we go back over to here, the idea is that I don't think that the copy command will work outside of where the build is being executed, if that makes sense. So, hopefully that makes sense. But wherever the build is where these files have to be. And so I've been trying to figure out where these files are, or the build command is occurring, so that I can place these files and download them in the component to the correct location. So we go over here to version 2. I keep updating this. And so I thought maybe it might have been here, right? Another indicator that might have told me where it is, if I go here and we go over to our, into the container here, and we check the workflow, and we go to step 3, this should indicate to me some information. If I go all the way down to the ground here, we have this directory called temp image service here. And so I can see that it's referencing a Docker file here. And so I thought maybe, this is where it's executing, but maybe that's wrong, because this is referencing a file from a Docker file from this location, but it's not necessarily where the stuff is. But anyway, I tried to place them in here. And so I'm just going to tell you, there is no tutorial online. There is no documentation or anything that tells you where the heck you have to put these files to copy them onto the container. If we were using code build, which this could be utilizing underneath, but I don't think so, then it'd be a lot easier for us to figure out what to do. But I'm just going to tell you, this is really hard, and it's just a bizarre case where I don't know where this is building. And if no one else has solved it online and I can't find it, and I have to actually go to AWS support just to figure this out, then maybe this is something that's not worth us figuring out. We could check the other steps here. I don't think there'd be anything interesting in them. Which one is launching the instance and the other one is here. But let's just take a look and see if there's anything interesting. So it launches the instance. Okay. Yeah, so nothing interesting. So what I'm going to say here is that we did the best that we could here. We could build out a simple image, and we were able to do that, but we weren't able to build our application and run it, which is what I really wanted to do. So at this point, I would just say, like, the service is a pain, and we kind of was able to do everything we needed to do for the exams, but not necessarily what I wanted to do from a practical standpoint. But there you go. So we'll just send it there, and whatever you want to clean up, you can clean up. All this stuff is free, so I'm not really worried about it. But if you're worried about the containers, you can go over to ECR and delete those containers. You can delete all the pipelines. I'm not going to clean it up just in case I come back to this, okay? We'll see you in the next one. Ciao.